How's it going, everyone? Cuppa Anime Joe here, back for another One Piece review, this time for chapter 1164, which is titled Davy's Blood. And to start, we have a cover page request. Now that the Yamato cover story is over, we're probably going to have a decent chunk of just requests like this, along with other things, before we get into the next cover page story. So, I've heard some talk about what the next cover page story might be, and so far my favorite option will be one surrounding Sentomaru and maybe Stussy and what they do having escaped Egghead, right? Because we saw Sentomaru floating away on a boat. Stussy can probably fly because she has like the bat zone, so it'd be cool to see them kind of working together, right? Because they were both sort of under and or looked up to Vegapunk. For this cover art request, though, we have Perona with a pocket watch chasing a rabbit. Or maybe the rabbit has the pocket watch. Perona chasing a rabbit with a pocket watch. The rabbit just happens to be Randall from Big Mom's crew. I guess he was just unlucky enough to be a rabbit in the story, and as such be the one selected by Oda. And then we have like a little thought bubble in the top with a perplexed looking Mihawk. I'm not sure if this is supposed to symbolize Mihawk watching them thinking, what are you clowns doing? Or Perona imagining something with Mihawk. It could be either or. So I'm not going to go too far into these. Unlike the cover page stories, the art requests are not canon, but they're still fun to see. Getting into the chapter, though, we open up with Roxy Xebec in the process of getting Domi reversied. So we saw this right at the end of last chapter. Emu stabs Rox, Domi reversey. But the difference between this scenario and the other instances of Domi reversey that we've seen is Rox is not getting turned immediately. Like, he is actually capable of resisting this and pushing the effects back. Although we're going to see that even he can't do it indefinitely, but it seems like with enough will, you might not get Domi reversied immediately. Or maybe other conditions are needed as well. So we have the spread of characters who attacked earlier, basically exclaiming that their attacks didn't even phase the spider thing, which is Emu, and commenting on what is going on with Rox. So they're all looking up, they're all pretty shocked. And Emu says to Rox how obstinate. He's surely commenting on he, they, she, whatever Emu is. It. Surely commenting on how Rox is resisting the Domi reversey. And Rox, it says, you shouldn't scoff at humans, you beast. So he is calling out Emu a little bit for looking down on humans so much. And then he drops a very interesting piece of lore here, which, man, God Valley, the God Valley part of this flashback has been a wild combination of action and all of these heavy hitters coming together, but also like massive lore drops. And so Rox says here, Davy D. Jones. That's the name of the previous king of the world. So this is huge, right? Does this mean that Davy Jones was the king of the ancient kingdom? Was he a leader even before that, or even to a greater extent? We don't know yet, but we have basically learned pretty certainly. I feel like Oda wouldn't be revealing this in this way if it wasn't actually true. He probably wouldn't have Rox saying this like this. Rox is a member of the Davy clan, or even the member of the Davy clan at this point in time, stating that Davy D. Jones was the previous king of the world. Okay, and Emu acts like a child here, which, is Emu childish because they're like, are they frozen at a certain age? Were they actually a kid and they're still a kid? Have they just always been like this? Did this develop over time? I've seen before where Emu kind of speaks in a way that a child or a younger individual might speak, but It's just interesting because Emu freaks out. Insolent fool, that wretch was never king, not for a single moment. Thou hast no place in the fate that binds Moo and Davy. So clearly, they are also had some relations in the past, be it as friends, enemies, somehow both. But Rox continues to goad Emu a little bit, saying that he shouldn't be so scared, it's just a name after all. You've been afraid for a long time, haven't you? And so I think it's pretty safe to assume that to some extent, Emu and the Celestial Dragons probably would fear their fall in some way. And here in a little bit, we might get some hints as to what that fall might take. Because Rox continues and says, I wonder who scares you the most, Davy D. Jones or Joy Boy? So, probably not the same person. Davy Jones and Joy Boy are probably two different individuals. And this makes me wonder if the key to defeating Emu is a combination of Joy Boy and Davy Jones and or their descendants. And this might point to why Rox needed Harold so much for part of his plan. Like, let's assume that the Nika fruit is the legendary Elbaf fruit, and that the giants, as being the closest, society to Nika, maybe are the ones who are the most likely to awaken the devil fruit. Now, we know Luffy's done this in the current time, but he had no idea what he was doing or what he was going for. It just happened as a side effect of him getting destroyed by Kaido, right? But if Rox knew, let's say Rox was aware that one side or the other side individually can't beat Emu, and that you need both, this might explain why he's exclaiming that Emu's afraid of both of them. This might explain why he knew that he needed Harold for part of his plan. And this also is making me kind of shift. For a while, I really thought that Emu would be the final boss for Luffy, and that Blackbeard would be one step below that. But now I'm slowly starting to shift and wonder if there's a scenario where a reluctant team-up between Blackbeard and Luffy happens, bringing together the current era Joy Boy and the current era Davy Jones, at least their successors of their wills, coming together to take down Emu. And that perhaps Luffy and Blackbeard will have their fight afterwards, and that will set Blackbeard up as the final villain of the series. I'm still not totally sold on that, but it's kind of starting to feel like that is the direction that we are going. So Emu continues, cease this babble, they shall never resurface. This did not age well, Emu. This did not age well. So long as thou fades into oblivion. So he seems to think that if he takes down Rox here, and I suppose if Rox were to successfully take out his lineage, possibly the main bloodline of Davy Jones, Emu might be right, but we'll see where that goes in a little bit. Emu also calls Rox Davy, so he's actually referring to him as his Davy D. Xebec, as the Davy part of his name, not as Xebec or Rox that he calls himself. And I wonder if this has anything to do with Emu seeing Davy Jones in Rox, right? So he tells him that he has found the perfect soldiers, a certain nation of gentle and indecisive giants. So now Emu's goading back a little bit at Rox, and this is part of what I think might push the Domi Reversi to completion, because Rox gets a little annoyed here, calling Emu out for targeting the giants and telling him to stay away from Harold because Harold just wants peace. So now Rox is becoming a little more agitated here, and that might be accelerating the effects of Domi Reversi. Emu states that there may never be a sovereign this pliable as Harold. Now, we obviously learn that Harold does not end up going the way Emu wants him to, so he's not as pliable as Emu thinks. But I can't see any reason why Emu brought this up. It kind of seems separate from the main things that are going on, unless Emu knew he needed to agitate rocks a little bit to help push Domi Reversi forward. So there may be different conditions necessary to make Domi Reversi really work that kind of balance it being such a terribly broken ability. Now I almost think that maybe, because from what I've heard, it stands for I have returned home or something to that effect, which has led many people to think that an individual needs to be on their homeland in order for Domi Reversi to work, which is why we're seeing it work on rocks in God Valley, and we've seen it work on the giants in Elbaf, because every individual so far who's been Domi Reversi'd is on their homeland when it happens. And it's also possible you need to be not in your totally right mind, or if you're a individual with less willpower, maybe this condition doesn't matter. But for people who have higher willpower, such as Rox or even Dorian Broggy, because I think it was I think it was Dory who got Domi Reversi'd first, and Emu shot off his arm, so he was clearly not going to be focused on resisting it. He was probably going to be more focused on the fact that his arm just got blown off, right? So what perhaps as an additional condition for Domi Reversi against individuals with a lot of willpower, they need to be agitated in some way, be it a physical injury that's going to affect them mentally, or goading like what Emu's doing here, like purely an emotional response. That could be part of Domi Reversi, right? It definitely could be. And so this is when Rox gets pushed fully into the demon state. He even states that he's fading, so he's feeling his control steadily going away. And then we just have Demon Rox running the gauntlet through his former crew, through the people that are there with him. So first he stabs Kaido, like kind of in the nose, right? And because Kaido's still in his dragon form, he just jumps up, stabs Kaido. Kaido's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then Rox just yeets Kaido into a mountain. And you can see Conqueror's Haki flying off the attack. So he definitely used Conqueror's Haki in that attack. And this is where the Rox pirates start to realize something's wrong. Next, Big Mom comes up and says, "Damn you, Rox, aren't we meant to be allies?" And Rox just kicks her in the face, sends Big Mom flying. So we got a current one-shot on Kaido. We got a one-shot on Big Mom. Then Whitebeard mean mugs Rox, and he either knew from the start something was wrong, or after seeing both Big Mom and Kaido get attacked, he's like, okay. And he asks Rox, "We're in your way, aren't we?" And Rox says, "You are." And we get this epic clash between Rox bringing his sword down, and it looks like Kaido punches with the Gurgur no Mi and counters the attack. We do not see Whitebeard go flying like we did the other two. We actually don't see what happened to Whitebeard from this clash. However, the effects of it, just the devil fruits, the Conqueror's Haki, just the power from this clash takes out the left side of the split mountain of God Valley. It just completely topples over, destroyed. And so I don't know if Whitebeard was flung into the mountain and that's what caused this, if it was just an effect of the attacks. We know that Rox keeps moving forward, so it seems like he got the better of that clash, but we don't see Whitebeard fly back in the same way we see as the other two. And then we have some marine ships on the coast trying to pull back. The Celestial Dragons are, of course, saying, "You'll all be put to death if you set sail without us." Who's taking responsibility for this? Typical Celestial Dragon stuff, but in short, everyone's trying to evacuate. Like, everyone knows if it wasn't already time to get off this island, it's definitely time to get off this island now. We have the Roger pirates looting treasure still. Rayleigh still has Shaki. He's asking if Roger is safe. And we see a panel here where one of the Roger members is carrying a chest, and we see some Z's at the top. So Shanks is just snoozing. Shanks made his way into this chest, decided it was nap time, and because nobody's checking what's in the chests that they pick up, this is pretty much how Shanks ends up with the Roger Pirates. So they just pick up the chest, and he's one of the things that's included in it. This does not bode well for Dragon, though. Dragon is not having a good day. It's very reminiscent of when Luffy couldn't save any of his crew members on Sabaody, and before he knew that Kuma was sending them all off to keep them alive, he thought everyone was dead. Dragon's in that trademark pose on the ground, trembling. Damn it, I couldn't even save one tiny baby. Where did he go? So Dragon won't learn until later, I don't think, that he actually did successfully save Shanks. I mean, I'm sure that Dragon's going to figure out at some point that Shanks, the Yonko, is the baby that he saved on God Valley. But it ain't going to be today. Also, Kuma is still on the island. I thought he was gone. I thought for sure by now that Kuma and his group was gone. And even Ivankov and Ginny are saying, like, Kuma, it's too risky to try to save more people. We have to go. But Kuma, the goat, one of the few genuine bona fide true heroes of this story, rebuttals both of them and says there might still be people out there to save. So I think that maybe at this point, Kuma sends Ivankov and Ginny away. But he stays behind to keep trying to see people, and he even sees someone in the distance. We don't know who this is. We'll find out later that it might be Eris and Teach. It could also be a Rocks member, crew member, because right after this it cuts to John. Captain John's back up, cursing Gonzui. And then we see Gonzui on the ground, cursing Shiki. Now, I'm pretty sure that Gonzui might have just gotten dusted by Shiki. He might even have gotten cut in half. However, we can't see his bottom half because it is covered up by a speech bubble of him saying asshole to Shiki, you'll never make it off this island alive, you hear? Shiki can fly, bro. He's got the float fruit. If anybody's gonna get off this island, it's the Golden Lion. And Shiki's flying away cackling. He's got a chest as well. Gee, ha 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 ha. No one gets the drop on me. So I figured in the last chapter, between the confrontation of Gonzui and Shiki, that even if Gonzui got the better of Captain John, he was going to end up on the losing end of the conflict with Shiki, and that is exactly what happened. And we still have Marines trying to escape, people getting to the coast, some people needing stretchers. And here we see Xebec catching up with Eris and Teach. And Eris looks at Xebec and sees that he's a demon, and she says, so you lost. This means Eris knew a lot. Like, Eris might have literally known the entirety of Rox's plan and what Rox knew he needed to defeat Emu, because she apologizes, saying she's sorry and that it's their fault, her and Teach, that she faced that thing sooner than he was ready for it. And so she grabs Teach and runs, right? I don't think she wants to go down at the hands of her husband. And she says, we have no choice but to jump into the sea and swim. I won't let the Davy clan end here. So things are not looking good for Eris and Teach. They have demon rocks on one side, and then they have a marine battleship on the other side from the sea about to fire cannonballs because they see escapees spotted on the coast. Then the goat, Bartholomew Kuma, flies in. And Kuma, as a child, doesn't care. Jumps between Roxy, Xebec, and the cannonballs, and he uses the pawpaw fruit to save both Eris and Teach together. So we see him flinging forward, poof, poof, they're gone. And then he turns to look either towards Rox or towards the cannonballs. And below him, we see another poof. So I think what happened here is this is where Kuma knew it was time for him to go to. He gets Eris and Teach out of there, and then immediately hits himself with the pawpaw fruit and gets himself out of there, and all three of them are gone. Right? And then we have an explosion on one side, and it looks like Rox's sword slash takes out the Marine battleship, like cuts it right in half on the other side. Of course, Rox doesn't get taken out by the cannonballs. He's fine. But the ship, on the other hand, not so much. Emu interprets this as Eris and Teach being dead. Like, they don't realize that the disappearing of their presence is because of a devil fruit, is because of Kuma. Not so. Instead, they think that it's because Rox took them out. So then, Emu just moves right on to the next command, saying, "Next, Davy, extinguish all who remain on this island." We get a couple of scenes of the Marines trying to get Garp back and the Roger pirates trying to get Roger back. And Garp and Roger are like, "Nah, fam, that ain't it, chief. You guys get on the ship, tell us when you're there, but we're not going back yet. We have bigger fish to fry." And then, man, this is sad right here. Rox is in enough control to seemingly use the voice of all things, which I think both Garp and Roger are hearing. And Rox asks them, with tears in his eyes, even though he's a demon, "Roger, Garp, please kill me." So Rox is actually pleading. I think he maybe knows that the only two people on this island who are really going to be able to pull off this request is Goldie, Roger, and Monkey D. Garp. And he pleads with both of them, "Please kill me." And they look shocked. Both of them look shocked to hear this. And Garp readies his fist. Roger readies his sword as Rox is charging in. And we are about to get the final clash. The final fight for the God Valley part of this flashback. And I think it's pretty evident that Rox is going to go down here. Like, he is asking them to kill him. And so I have a feeling that they're going to be successful in fulfilling this request, this dying wish of Rox D. Xebec, and that this is where he goes down. We know Eris doesn't die here, though, so she is going to go on at least a little bit with Teach. We see Teach as an orphan, so I don't think that she's alive in the current day, but she made it out of there. I am relieved to see that Rox didn't kill his wife. Well, we knew he wasn't going to kill Blackbeard, because Blackbeard's alive. But it's nice that he didn't kill Eris either. It was great to see them get away. Kuma, ever the GOAT. And yeah, now we have the clash of the century, or the clash of all of One Piece. Roger and Garp versus Rox. This is where the legend is born. This is where Sengoku's story of these two having to team up against Rox comes from. And it's not because Rox was ever their enemy. It's all because of Emu and the Domi Reversi. So, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. If I missed anything or there's anything you want to discuss, please let me know in the comment section. You know, at some point when I do start getting comments on these videos, maybe I can begin doing follow-up videos where I talk about what other people are saying. But for now, I would like all of you to have an excellent rest of your day. Also, no break next week. So that's great news.